During war, often everything is decided in a matter of seconds. In the blink of an eye to make a decision. Seconds to take cover from shelling or an enemy grenade. In no time to provide assistance to a wounded comrade. Photographs could also become such seconds, often overturned into eternity. Photo flashes of war. They depict real people in wartime. We invite you to get acquainted with some of these moments before and during the war. Here's a column of captured Red Army soldiers in the Belgorod area, USSR. Germans are capturing Belgrade. This war started hard for the Red Army, with a retreat and a lot of killed, wounded, and imprisoned fighters. What were these Red Army soldiers thinking about in the photo? Back then, they were someone's children, brothers, husbands, fathers, and now maybe grandfathers and great-grandfathers. However, many of them were not fortunate to become fathers or grandfathers. We can only hope that those in the photo were lucky to return alive. On the territory of the USSR, the Germans had to fight not only with the Red Army and partisans, but also with off-road conditions. Already on the administrative border of the Kiev region, having passed some regional centers, the German equipment began to get stuck. Just before this, there was a good rainfall. The Germans began asking local residents how they could get to the main road leading towards Kiev. "So you're standing right on it," the local residents answered in surprise. The Germans did not believe, but the residents were telling the truth. This road actually led from the regional center and exited onto the central highway somewhere close to Kiev. Back then, there weren't many asphalt roads, and often even the roads leading through the district centers, large villages, and small towns, villages, were not only paved but not even firming up with any filling. Here are British schoolchildren during an exercise. It is difficult to say how much such exercises helped them during a real raid. In conditions of continuous shelling turning cities into ruins, even those who were far from the fighting still lived in a constant fear. This is an anti-war poster. Here is a meeting on the Elbe of Soviet and American soldiers. One of the first meetings of the Red Army with the American allies on a dilapidated bridge over the Elbe. First handshakes, friendly smiles, and hopes for comprehensive and internal peace after such a terrible war. This is what German soldiers looked like in April 1945. It is hard to even determine the age of the guy on the left, probably 12 years old. Here is the crew of the KV-1 Merciless tank. The heroic crew of this heavy tank KV-1, who fought as part of the 6th Guards Tank Brigade, had 27 destroyed enemy tanks, destroyed 10 guns, 9 mortars, 17 machine guns, 13 armored vehicles, and 30 enemy vehicles. The first commander of the tank, Pavel Maximovich Khoroshilov, died heroically in March 1943. He was replaced by Alexei Ivanovich Fateyev. The tank fought until August 1943 in heavy battles with the Nazis, after which it received damage from which it could no longer be restored. The painting is called The End. We think the picture does not require any special explanation. Here is Hitler's last refuge, a bunker. London bus with passengers. The passengers were unlucky after the start of the raid. They did not have time to hide. Here are soldiers of the Army of Ludowa, Polish patriots of the Ludowa Army. The Army of Ludowa, People's Army, was formed at the beginning of 1944 on the basis of the so-called Guard Ludowa, armed detachments of supporters of the Polish Workers' Party. Subsequently, it absorbed many small arms formations and Polish partisans. Together with units of the Red Army, they liberated Warsaw and took part in the assault of Berlin. Here are officers of the WWII Army and the Red Army. September 22nd, 1943, women soldiers study rayon stockings. These stockings were specially designed for military needs. Here is Hitler on the outskirts of Warsaw, which had just been taken by the Germans. To implement the Ost plan, it was necessary first to crush Poland. Hitler, for some reason, was sure that Poland's allies would not really fight for it. Here is the radio station in Gliwice. This radio station in the German border town of Gliwice was allegedly attacked by Polish troops. Actually, it was several Poles serving their sentences in German prisons, who were dressed in Polish military uniforms, then killed and thrown into the radio station building. German actors in soldiers' tunics depicted something like a fleet battle. There they knocked out windows and took out doors. Everything was then carefully photographed, after which Hitler announced to the whole world about the invasion of the Polish army into German territory. Here German soldiers are pushing the boundaries of the Third Reich, September 1939. So, with a poorly executed, cheap provocation, on September 1st, 1939, Hitler began a major European and world war. Late summer 1944, Camp Majdanek. Here's a landing plan for Sicily. Allied landings in Sicily and southern Italy. Mussolini had a hard time with it. The landing of the Anglo-American troops was successful, since enemy aircraft were suppressed by powerful bombing of airfields and complete control of the Allied fighter aircraft in the air. Here's the first use of American jeeps in a military landing operation. For the first time, American jeeps were involved in the operation, which would later become almost the auto symbol of the American Army. Here, British landing in southern Italy on September 3rd, 1943. Well, after the landing of the Allied armies in southern Italy, it became clear that Mussolini's number was up. Here is Mussolini with German paratroopers. Mussolini was surrounded by German paratroopers under the command of Scorzini. He finally turned into a pathetic puppet of Hitler. And then it did not take long for his trial by Italian patriots. It is for the reason that the adage goes that sooner or later you will have to pay the piper.